Hello, and welcome to today's video. I figured for today we could pick something kind of fun to talk about, and so I decided Legos. Legos are the fun thing to talk about. More specifically, the Lego world that me and my siblings had when we were kids. It was the funnest thing in the world. Like, legitimately every Saturday or like after school, and especially during the summers, whenever we had free time, what we would do very often was play with our Legos. And we didn't just play with them and like have boxes that they would go in at the end of the day. We had a Lego room. This room that was just full of these big tables covered in Legos. And each of us like had our own table or two, depending on how many Legos we had, that we would, put all of our buildings and our cars and our people in. And it was literally this whole society. It was the neatest thing. And there was an entire storyline, history and stuff. It all started, I was probably like 5 or 6 at the beginning of the history of our Lego world. But it all started with our Lego Indiana Jones sets. So, Lego Indiana Jones, and then, me and my older brother both had a Lego Indiana Jones. So his was the Indiana Jones, and mine was this guy named Other Indy. Real creative, right? I loved it though. I loved having Other Indy because Other Indy was just a kind of funny, out-of-pocket character that did weird things. I was like 6 or 7 when I had him. So he did a lot of things that a 6 or 7-year-old thought that Indiana Jones might do. Which was a little bit different than my brother, who was like 2 years older than me. But yeah, it all started with their adventures, and they had a bunch of friends that would go on these adventures with them. And eventually they found a nation, they founded it. And they called it Indy Foundations, because, Indy found a nation, so Indy Foundations. And Indy Foundations, it's essentially a foundation in our Lego world, was the equivalent of a country. And so, yeah, it all started with them in their little country. They started founding it. As we got more sets, we added more to it. Eventually, after years and years of Indy and Other Indy going on adventures, building up Indy Foundations, doing cool things with their friends, building houses, all of the fun little stuff, eventually they did pass away, and then new Lego people took on main roles in our world. But as things developed, we really got in depth with it. We built a whole political system. There were elections, because, after Indiana Jones was gone, somebody had to run Indy Foundations. And so they decided to go for democracy, and yeah, they ran political elections. And what we would do when we had political elections was we would get all of our adult Lego people. So anybody that had the long, normal, regular Lego person legs, because we had people with the little legs too, and those were kids. But anybody that was an adult member of Indy Foundations, we'd gather them all up based on the area that they lived in. And then they would all vote. And so we'd have our people that were running, and then they'd vote, and then somebody would get elected. And it was just the funnest thing. I remember it was almost always my brother's people that got elected as mayor, because he was kind of in charge, and I trusted him. He was a couple years older than me, and I liked how he had his people run the place. I had no idea what mine were supposed to do. There was this one time one of my Lego people got elected to run Indy Foundations, and 3 days later I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm so overwhelmed. And so I was he just decided it wasn't for him, gave up office, and the job went to the runner-up. So yeah, that was what happened. I was still pretty young at the time. I feel when I was older, I probably could have had people be the mayor, because that's what it was called. It wasn't a president or anything. It was just called the mayor of Indy Foundations. But it was a similar role to a president. But one of my favorite things is, so we had a Hogwarts castle, and for years of the Lego world history, it was actually Hogwarts. Kids would go to wizarding school, they'd get called and stuff, and it was really fun because we gave our people names and organized them in families, and it was so in depth, and it was the neatest thing, and I miss it so much. But so yeah, kids from certain families would get called to go to Hogwarts. Not all kids from the same families would go either. It was kind of funny, but yeah, we had this whole system. But eventually, for whatever reason, Hogwarts kind of just went out of business / moved to a different country. But so the Hogwarts castle was left in Indy Foundations. So what do? They make it the Capitol building. So now people are running Indy Foundations out of the old Hogwarts, and for some reason it just worked. Like it was so neat. Dumbledore's office became like the mayor's office, and like the big dining room, that was like the council chamber where everybody would meet together when there were like big issues to discuss or just anything like that. And it worked really well. It was a great kind of city hall type. I mean, it was a Capitol building. It wasn't city hall. I mean, we kind of found an interesting balance between like we didn't have enough Lego people to really make it, you know, like as big as an actual country, but we kind of just tried to base it off of that despite having, you know, more of a small town amount of Lego people. But over the years we did progressively get tons and tons more Lego people. Like it started pretty small and ended up massive. Like we had so many hundreds of minifigures, and it was just fantastic. I loved it. But we had a lot of like really prominent families. Like there was this one family called the Big Family, and if you can't guess it, it was a big family. They had a lot of kids. And for some reason we had this like rule in our Lego world that like I think it was either 7 or 9 kids, but families were just unable to have more than whichever amount it was. I think I don't know. I literally cannot remember whether it was 7 or 9. I just remember it was an odd number. But yeah, so the Big Family, they maxed out. They had so many kids. I always remember the dad minifigure was my brother's. His name was Nike. And the mom was mine, and she was Angela. And so the kids were like half mine, half his. But we would build like houses for them, and they'd go on adventures. And most of the kids were enrolled at Hogwarts at some point. I think by the time like the last 2 were growing up, because all the kids like had age differences and stuff. But by the last like couple were growing up, I think that was after Hogwarts had already left. So it was only really like the older, either 5 or 7 kids. Like I said, I don't remember what the number was. I'll have to ask my brother. But yeah, the older kids got to be wizards, and the younger ones kind of missed out on it. But it was pretty funny, and it was really cool, like, as all of the kids grew up, like, they all started their own families and stuff, and especially, like, the main ones that we had tons of adventures with, like, at Hogwarts and stuff, like, I think a couple of them ended up maxing out, like, the number of kids they could have, too, so they kind of continued the big family legacy, but it was so fun, and like having stories for all the people. Everybody had their own cars and stuff. Like it was so in depth, and it was just our Lego world, and I miss it so much because it was so fun. But what I really love about it is like I feel like it gave me an appreciation for a lot of things in real life. Just how unique and fascinating people can be, and how different families can be, and how I can build my life to be interesting. Like, sure, I can't go to Hogwarts, and I don't think I'm ever going to become mayor of a foundation, but I still plan on having a family someday and doing all kinds of cool stuff like that. And even if my kids aren't being sent off to Hogwarts, I'm sure they'll still have a lot of interesting opportunities to learn really neat things. But yeah, so that's a little bit about our Lego world. There's so much more history. Like, legitimately, we consistently played Legos for probably between 8 to 10 years that all of these storylines played out, and it gets so in depth. There were all kinds of crazy stuff like robot invasions and apocalypses. There were crazy people that tried to take over the country. There were foreign foundations that there were wars with. It was just the most fantastic and thrilling thing, and it definitely built like my love for creativity and for storytelling. And it's just an integral part of who I am. So those days of Indy Foundations in the Lego world will always mean so much to me. But with that, I think I'm about done with my hair. Just kind of got to spray it. So that will be all for today's video. If you guys like hearing about Indy Foundations and our Lego world, let me know, and I'd love to do more videos on it because the lore is actually so deep. And I have a bunch of stuff written down about it, and I know my brother compiled a bunch of like history for it, and it was just the neatest thing. So yeah, if you guys would like to hear more about me and my siblings' Lego world, let me know, and I would love to put some stuff together for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.